There's a row about this, of course. The Tories are not happy. Joining me now to talk about this, founder of Conservative Home and former Number 10 advisor, Tim Montgomery. Afternoon to you, Tim.
Is it too early to wish you Happy New Year, Ian?
No, it's all right. I was just trying to work out whether are we still in the Happy Christmas mode or are we Happy New Year mode? I don't know. Either way, it's, yeah.
Well, Happy Christmas and Happy New Year.
Well, I was about to reflect exactly that, and the same back to you as well. Always good to talk, Tim. I mean, this is interesting. There's a bit of a row over, you know, digital algorithms and how stuff works, which seems to be, and it sounded quite desperate stuff from Kemi Badenoch, to be honest, that she's, you know, talking about fake news, and it's something about the ticker. It just automatically gives you an uptick when it might not mean it's a full member. I mean, this is like quite desperate stuff, really.
Well, I wondered whether she had too many sherries with her cold turkey yesterday. Yeah, that was my suspicion. And you've introduced me as founder of Conservative Home, but I should, of course, declare that I recently joined Reform.
Yes, we should have mentioned that. Of course, you are literally a very high-profile convert to Reform UK.
Well, I don't know about that, but that's probably where my bias lies. Look, yesterday there was all this talk on Twitter, on X, about APIs and back ends of websites, and to be honest, it all went over my head a little bit. But what Nigel Farage challenged Kemi Badenoch to was say, you know, invite one of the big four accountancy firms in, and they'll, you know, certify our figures. Yeah. Will you certify yours? And I think that if this row is going to go on, let's have a real, you know, independent evaluation of whether it's Reform or the Conservative Party or both that's telling the truth.
Sorry, Tim, I was just going to compound that point by just saying, even if it's roughly the same, I mean, it's still a massive story, right? You know, as Mr. Farage said himself, you know, the newest political party overtaking the oldest one is significant.
Absolutely. And I honestly think that, I can't remember the exact figure, maybe you've got it at hand, Ian, but another 400-odd people illegally crossed the channel on Christmas Day.
Correct.
So look, if 400 people can cross the channel on Christmas Day, I'm not surprised that 6,000 people in one day joined Reform. Yeah. People are very angry about what's happening in our country. You know, people are basically coming across our borders and we don't seem to be doing anything about it. And that makes people angry. And if 6,000 people think their way of protesting is to join Reform, well, I think that is perfectly explicable, actually.
I think, I don't think anybody should struggle to get their heads around that. That's just a very basic point of fact there. But in terms of the wider issue, one of the questions we're throwing out is, aside from immigration, what is the attraction to Reform UK? And you're probably in a good position to answer this, Tim, bearing in mind you've been around the Westminster block for many, many years. You know where some of the bodies are buried. You know, you've got some pretty decent. I thought I had a good contacts list, but I think yours is to die for in the realms of MPs, etc. Well, so you know the territory, and you're a very astute and trusted journalist. Beyond what is what's at the centre of all of this beyond immigration?
I think it's the fact, and I say this with a lot of regret, actually. You know, my former party, the Conservative Party, was rejected soundly at the last general election because it had seemed to have failed. You know, all the things that it said it believed in: home ownership, low tax, control of migration, and keeping the streets safe of crime. You know, all the indicators on those things had gone in the wrong direction. And I didn't think Labour would do very well, but I'd genuinely be surprised at how quickly they've failed, how catastrophically they've failed. You know, the economy going in the wrong direction, immigration going up, you know, seemingly, you know, the way the pensioners have been treated. I don't need to spell it out for your viewers and listeners, Ian. And in that moment, I think people are seeing the wheels come off the policies of the two main parties, and they're wanting an alternative. And you're right, it can't just be immigration. Reform have to use the time they have over the next 2 or 3 years to develop policies where the wheels won't come off. Yeah. People are going to be incredibly suspicious and cynical about politics now because they've been let down by the two mainstream parties. And Reform really has a big opportunity, but the responsibility it has is bigger, actually, because if it comes forward with just, you know, ill thought out policies and adds to the sense of cynicism toward politics, you know, British democracy is in real trouble. So I want to play my small part in helping Reform be a credible party, not just
Sure.
offering simple solutions.
And was that, just briefly, Tim, was that part of your thinking, that it wasn't that you were jumping ship from the party you've been a member of forever to a new party that was, obviously a centre-right party? The similarities kind of stopped there in many respects. Was it because you looked at Reform and thought, hang on, they've got loads of great policies, or because you thought you could help build on what needs to be done to if you like, fill the gap that the Tories had left?
Yeah, a little bit of both, I think, Ian. I think they've got good policies, and I think they've got very good instinct. But, it's a young party. You're saying, it's been around for 20 minutes. Well, not much longer than 20 minutes, actually. It needs to build, go on from being a campaigning organisation to be a proper party with a manifesto. I think Nigel Farage would admit they're work in progress. But, the next general election's probably 4 years away, maybe longer.
Sure.
We've got time to build a manifesto that people can look at and say they've thought it through, they're ready for government. We're not ready there yet, but I think we can be.
Tim, as ever, thank you. Have a cracking new year. Tim Montgomery, founder of Conservative Home.